All right. All right, Weston, kick us off.
Welcome to MS Office Hours. Today is Thursday, March 9th, 2023, and here are your hosts.
Hey, everybody, Heather Cox.
Victoria Dean.
Hey, Garrett Chandler.
We're super excited to have one of our very own presenting today. Another one we snagged because she attended office hours too many times. Amy, where'd you go, Amy? Oh, we lost you.
You told me to turn my camera off.
No, not you.
You're the speaker. Amy is going to talk to us. She's going to talk to us about Viva Learning. And I love that when Amy sent over the session description, the word free was in it. So as a former educator, the word free speaks to my heart. So Amy, the show is all yours.
Well, thanks, Heather. And hello, everybody. All right, let me throw out my presentation here. I got just a few short slides I'm going to show. Nothing crazy. And then we're going to jump right into, oh, I'm not an organizer. I can't share content, Heather.
Sorry. Let me get you there. So, yep, forgot to do that.
Oopsie daisy.
Here we go. Make presenter. I don't know if you guys are like me. I did see a meme recently. I'll share it later about Saturday Night Live did it about the dumb songs you sing to yourself when no one's listening. I sing song, well, when people are listening, when I'm doing just random actions. But Amy, it is all you.
Okay. All right. I assume we can see my screen now, so we're good. So yeah, Viva Learning, one of my favorite products that we offer. So I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive into what it is. But first, we'll just start with just a few slides just to get us rolling. All right. So real quick, before we get too far into this, let me see a raise of hands if you feel like your learning and your company prioritizes learning and development for you and your peers. All right. Few people. All right, it's going up. All right. Not very many though. We're still like 7, 8, 9 people. So pretty small number. There's been some research that shows that this is what employees want. They want learning and development. They want it on demand, and they want their company to pay for it. I don't know about you guys, but I used to have a subscription to LinkedIn Learning. It's fairly expensive. Would have been nice if my company offered that, but they did not. So let's look at what we've got today, the current landscape of learning platforms. A lot of companies realized that this was important, so they went out and started buying all these different subscriptions to learning content providers and learning experience platforms and even LMSs to push that content to their employees. And what happened is there's a little bit of a divide because you got these learning management systems here on the side, systems that you're using for work, so like Teams and email and stuff like that, and they're not together. And so you've got to jump from app to app to get what you need. So here comes Microsoft with the win. Viva Learning puts all of that learning content in one place where you work in Teams. Now you're able to share content, get your learning assignments if you're connected to an LMS, search for content, even recommend content to your peers. So if you find something that's really, really cool and you want to show it off, you can do that. We're bringing the flow of work, learning into the flow of work. That's the new motto, I guess, for Viva Learning, right? And making it social. So that's one of my favorite parts of Viva Learning is that you can share content really easily with your peers through chat messages, through email, whatever works for you. We have partnered with a lot of different learning companies to bring that content directly to you. So they're listed there below in that section that says aggregation layer. Coursera is a big one, Udacity is another one, Skillsoft, LinkedIn Learning, that's a really big one. And then a lot of other LMS systems we offer integrations for. So like Workday is a new integration that we have. SuccessFactors, a lot of companies using that. We have direct integrations with that, so bring that content not only into Viva Learning, but also being able to assign the content and show and track the completion of that. And then what's new and kind of exciting is that we have a third-party API so that you can connect to other LMSs that we don't have a direct integration with. So like Canvas, I just saw somebody post that in the message. We don't have a direct integration with Canvas, but we do have a third-party API that will connect to Canvas and pull your content from Canvas into Viva. Coming soon is the being able to pull the learner record from that LMS into Viva and being able to not necessarily track, but show completion in Viva Learning. I think there was a question about Cornerstone. That is one that we offer. And then SCORM packages, I think that's coming soon, but don't quote me on that. I've seen some rumblings. And so that's the basic of Viva Learning. I threw this slide in here. I just went to go see Beetlejuice on Broadway last weekend in Greenville, and it was hysterical. And so I had to throw this slide in there. And so we'll jump into the demo. All right, let me stop sharing this screen. Okay. All right, so here we are in Viva Learning in Teams. I'm in a demo tenant. Lots to show you. I'm really excited about this. So this is the home screen. You've got some things you can do here. Watch your recently viewed, what's recommended, bookmarked. Here's a little feature scrolling banner, which is customizable. So if you have a knowledge admin, they can change this out and make this customizable per month or week or whatever they want to do. Then you have this section down here, which is really cool. You can pick interests. So if there's certain things you're interested in that you want the content to be curated for you, you can select lots of different options. So here are some of those that are in there, and you can select as many as you want. Let's see, teams, ooh, cryptocurrency, allyship. And so I'll just save, and now I can browse by my interests. So here we can see allyship, lots of videos, cryptocurrency, and then Microsoft Teams, of course. And you can see who the content provider is of each of these. So these are Microsoft, LinkedIn Learning. We've got one here, Go1. So lots of different providers that I have here in my demo tenant. I can even browse by provider. So if I want to see the different organizations that are offering content, Contoso here, this is my demo environment. So Contoso is my company. So here these are all content that we're curating through SharePoint. And so I'm going to show you that how we do that in SharePoint because I think it's really cool. And you can, show content from almost any material you can think of, Word, PowerPoint, videos, links, whatever you can come up with, you can do it. And then this here is a path that I created. So I'll show you what this looks like real quick. So you can do different sections with different material in here and have people walk through each of these in a sequence if they wanted to. But really organizing content that you want your folks to navigate through, all here in the flow of work in Teams. At the top of each material, you're going to see these same links here. So to open a browser, share, recommend, bookmark, add to your calendar. This is a new feature. So you can actually put this on your calendar as a way of reminding yourself that you want to watch this material later. The recommend button, this is part of the Viva licensing, so it doesn't come with the seeded version. Everything else that I'm showing you here today comes with the seeded version. If it doesn't, I will note that for you. But being able to recommend content doesn't come with the free version, so you won't see that button there. But if you did, you can recommend content to your friends. This is a really nice way for, I think, leadership to recommend content. Like say you're having a team meeting next week and you want your team to watch this video, you can recommend it to them, give them a due date. And then you can actually see if they've watched it or not, but only if they have designated you to see that information. So you don't necessarily have to allow the person who recommended it to see whether you've completed it or not. And I will show that later too. So that's the home page. Lots of different material that's on display here for you. And again, easy to bookmark and share right from this screen as well. The share button will allow you to share directly to Teams or copy the link. If you're sharing directly to Teams, you can either share to an individual person or a whole channel. Totally up to you. We'll jump into the My Learning tab. So here's where all of your bookmark material will appear, as well as collections. A new feature in the free version as well, collections. You can curate your own collection of material that you want to keep organized. So I created this collection of cool content. And when you click on it, you can see you can set up different sections. So if you want to be even more organized, you can create sections and have those videos, all in one, and then go through them when you have time. All right, back to My Learning. The recommended to you, as I was saying before, so this was recommended to me, and here is that toggle switch that I can say whether I want the person to be able to track my progress or not. Okay, so this is where you can enable or disable whether or not the recommender can see your progress, and you can track that manually right here. Perfect. Okay, the next piece I was going to go to was the Manage tab anyway. And so this is actually where you can see the courses that you've recommended to people and whether or not they've completed them. So I recommended this course to Megan and I can see that it is in progress. But I also recommended this one and I don't see anything. So either she hasn't shared that with me or she hasn't started it. But again, this only appears for licensed users. All right, the admin tab. This tab only appears for people who have admin rights to Viva Learning. And that means that you either have the knowledge manager role or the knowledge admin role. And something to keep in mind, those roles do provide a little bit of access to different features, admin features. So if you're going to assign those roles to someone in your organization, just take a look and see what access they're getting before you assign those, just to make sure you're good. So from this screen here, managing your providers, this is where you can see which providers you have connected. You can turn on or off the content sync. You can also export your logs from here, which is really nice to be able to make sure that if you got a troubleshoot or something like that. But you can see all of the different providers there. The next section is the manage permissions. So this is fairly new. You can add permissions to specific content that you want to share with specific users using M365 groups. So all of my SharePoint content is actually being permissioned with M365 groups. So I would provision that on the SharePoint site, not necessarily here. But as you can see at the top there, I have a few LinkedIn videos that I've permissioned to a group. And so I can show you what that looks like. And so here's the 365 group that I added. I can add other groups if I want to, or I can remove that group if that's no longer necessary. But here's where you can add permissions if you wanted to do that. The next part is the feature set. So that's where that banner on the home page, you can set up different content to scroll through there, things that you want to feature and you want people to see. You can create new feature sets here, and then the cool thing about this is that you can set an end date. So if you want this to end on, March 31st, and then something else will pick up when this one ends. That's kind of a cool feature. And then learning paths, which I think is what Jesse may have been talking about a little bit, but when I jump back on, this is also, so this feature requires the person who is creating learning paths to be licensed, but not all of the users have to be licensed. So if you have one person who has a Viva license and they create these learning paths, your whole organization can have access to these learning paths. And the test course path is the one that I showed you earlier. And you can publish these once you have them all set up and organized the way that you want them, and then you publish them, and then your organization is able to view those, and they can do the same things with learning paths they can with other content, sharing, recommending, those sorts of things. So that is basically all there is to Viva Learning, the app within Teams. I'm going to do a little pivot now and show you some of the setup pieces of it. So here I'm logged into my M365 Admin Center, and in the Setup tab is where you can access the Viva Learning setup. And so here on the side, you can see this is where all of those content providers are that you can just check the box if you want those to display to your organization. some of these require some setup, so you have to know some information before you can, you know, install those or integrate those third-party systems. But the one that I really want to show you was the SharePoint piece, because this is part of the free version, and it's really easy to use, and provides a lot of customization for your org. So here you just go in and you put in whatever SharePoint site you want to be your repository. It could be any site in your org that that you're going to be able to manage this from and permission it from. So we have just this site set up. It's called Learning, and this is when you enter this URL here and you hit save, what it does is it creates this this Learning App Content Repository list. So it's a Microsoft list that's created. And I'll go ahead and click on this. And what this does is this is where you link or point to the document repositories where you're actually hosting your content. So you can see here I have 3 different catalogs that I'm hosting in different places in SharePoint. So the first one is just a course catalog. Second one would be some onboarding material. And this third one was Teams Voice, which I was playing with. And so each one of these, I just designate what the folder URL is. And then if I can go actually to each one of these folders. And so here are my document repositories. And you can see they're named the same as they were in that list. I do have one for thumbnails because you can add your own custom thumbnails to your content, but you have to have a URL that points to the thumbnail. And so I store those thumbnails here in this folder. But I'll just go into this Teams one and show you real quick. I've got a link. So this is a link to a YouTube video. This actually is the office hours that Andre Mitchell did on Teams Voice. And so it's just a link to the YouTube. And then I have here a loop video that's just an MP4. And then this is a training attestation URL. This actually points to a Microsoft form. So one of the use cases that I've been working with a customer on is they want when their people finish their training, they want them to fill out a form and upload the certificate that comes with that video. And so this was a way to do that through Microsoft Forms. And this just becomes one of the tiles in Viva Learning that they click on, takes them directly to the form, they fill it out, and then they mark that they've completed that video. And so this is just one way of doing it. If I go into the course catalog again, you can see a bunch of other material. The other thing you can do with this is you can create custom columns to display the content in Viva. So I talked about that thumbnail. Here's where you would do that. A content description, the duration, and then the author. So you can specify all that information here in SharePoint along with your hosting your material. And then all of this is displayed in Viva Learning. I think that's all I had. So I'm going to leave about 9 or so minutes for questions, or if anybody wants to take a look at anything else in a little more detail. I can't see the chat.
Is anyone leveraging Viva Learning? That would be, I know some of you've heard about it, or does anyone have experience that they would be willing to share and talk about? Okay. I mean, I'm happy to share, like, as if people are trying to, get up, discuss it. And Bill has a question, so we can talk about that in just one second. Quite honestly, I actually really do appreciate it. We use it obviously here at Microsoft, and I honestly really enjoy it. It is a fantastic way for us because we live and breathe in Teams. So I have my Viva Learning tab pinned on the side or app pinned on the side. I go into that every so often just to double check what's upcoming, what's due, what do I need to make sure I'm up to speed on. It's all right there for me. So I genuinely appreciate it. I know when I had some new employees that joined the team, there were a couple of things I was able to go in and recommend them as courses to individuals so that would show up like, hey, I think this might be a good thing for you to keep your eyes on. I mean, I know that not everybody's using it in a widespread manner, but I honestly really appreciate it. I like having everything in one place. It's really easy for us to use. Bill had a question in the chat, and then we have a hand raised.
Yeah, good
Uh,
question, Bill. I got you. The permissions are managed with M365 groups, so that's an important distinction. Even in SharePoint, you can't use SharePoint groups to manage this content. It has to be an M360. And so what you do is in the, let me go back one, on these catalog, all these folders, here's where you would set the permissions, just manage access. And then I usually go to advanced just to get a little more detailed view, but here's where you can just add. So I've added the Contoso All Learning Content Members group here, which is a domain group, so it's an M365 group. And so this is where you would manage permissions for SharePoint.
And to expand on Bill's question here, just because I'm inferring where he might be wanting to go, I guess, Bill, are you asking for the individuals that you want to be able to consume the learning material that you're posting out there? Do you need to have permissions open for all of those people to view, or do you just need permissions set for editing? Is that what your question's getting at, Bill?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it. Is there any specific permissions for the end users that are consuming the content?
Just
Yeah,
read permissions.
Just read permissions. Okay.
Yep, just read.
all right, we have a hand up as well. Let me hit my hand thing. Walter.
I have a question that's not really tied to the product itself. It's more about Microsoft being the sort of growth mindset company. How much time do you guys spend a month, a week, whatever, on this kind of learning? Because obviously, when things get busy, one of the first things to go is like any sort of self-improvement kind of things that we try to do. But I'm curious, how much time do you guys try to spend? I don't know if there's anything mandated or whatever the case may be.
Are you
That
just
is a
talking
great
about like
question.
our personal learning at Microsoft?
Pretty much, yes, I think. Yes.
So
for,
I'll jump in real quick,
sorry.
Heather.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to give a plug to Viva Insights because you can actually schedule time on your calendar for learning with Viva Insights. And so that's what I do. I block 4 hours a week, so 2 days for 2 hours. And as a new Microsoft employee, I've been here all of 6 months. We get a ton of training material, at the get. So I block 2 hours or 4 hours per week to do learning, and hopefully that will continue even as I move along in my career here.
But kind of going along like what you said, that with the growth mindset piece, Microsoft US has blocked out every Friday for us as what they call a learning day. Now, we do have the flexibility to adjust that as we choose to, but we are encouraged not to have internal meetings. So, for example, as a manager, I'm encouraged and really told not to schedule any, required meetings for my team on that day, to really allow people to have the option to complete required learning or to complete any learning that they feel suits their needs. Garrett and Victoria, do you want to add anything to that?
I think you pretty much hit it. As far as just how we value it, I mean, if you don't get your learning things completed, that information is definitely being communicated upward. So it isn't like hey, you need to make money, so don't worry about constantly learning. There's definitely a large focus on both of those things, to the point that I believe you can't even receive certain awards if you haven't completed your training, which some people aren't thinking about, but it definitely continues to help us grow and continue to know our products, continue to know how to show up in these spaces. So, yeah.
And I would say that on top of that, just like most companies, we have our internal security trainings, and there's things that we have to do for compliance reasons and things like that. So all of those are marked as required modules. And, I started at the company 5 years ago, and they would all be in different portals. But this is the first year where it's all consolidated inside of Viva Learning. So I think the company's taken, their own approach at this learning and helping consolidate it. And it does streamline everything, and we'll have things pop up, and then it may be you have 6 months to finish this, right? So there's expiration dates, and we just have to complete it during that time. So some of it's on our own. I will attest that as a technical resource, I still spend my nights and weekends reading where I can. My family really diverts a lot of that. It's not encouraged to do it, but at the same time, it's still kind of a passion. So we all are responsible for our own learning.
And we can try to definitely answer also the questions that have been left here. I know we're really at time. The one thing I will say, Microsoft, if you've never heard of one of the things that they don't, there is one training, and I'm going to challenge you, you get to go back to your organizations and tell them to make a training like this. We have a series, which is our standards of business conduct, right? Is that the one? Which one is
Yes.
our, it's okay.
Yeah.
We have standards of business conduct, like how we run business here at Microsoft, like, and just like our ethics and how the we, you know, the way that we should be behaving. It is a full on TV show and it is the best. I mean, I have never looked forward to taking a training more than when those suckers get released, because
I
they'll be
binge it.
like, there'll be like 3 or 4 episodes. Yeah, the production quality, like you are so invested in the characters. You're like, and Nelson, if you ever hear anyone at Microsoft talk about Nelson, he is a main character because Nelson had a really, really rough time in the first part of the series. And he really learned from his mistakes. And I'll tell you, honestly, it is the greatest training I've ever watched in my whole life. So take that back. Tell everyone. My child's trying to steal stuff from me, the one with the potty mouth. Tell everyone at your university you want to get in on, like, hey, say I'll be an actor. Let's get this rolling. Let's do this thing because it is the best. So yeah, we are at 5 o'clock on the dot. Amy, thank you for that, because honestly, I had not seen the back end of things and adding your own content. Love that. Thank you so much for doing that for us. We are back next week. We've got another great presentation with another fabulous Microsoft team member. I'm going to stop the recording.